Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to Celeste. This is one of the best indie games made within the past 40 years, because that's when games were started, right? More? I don't know. So I guess we can just get into it. What should we name our character?
You can't change the name.
I'm changing the name.
You can't change the name. She's Madeline. You can't. You can. Like, there's a lot of games where you can set a custom name.
But they let me change the name, so I can.
Okay, but morality won't let you.
But the keyboard on screen will let me. So
There's
I'm
a keyboard
conflicted.
on screen.
There's also a keyboard on this laptop. Borb. All caps or all lowercase, or one cap, rest lowercase? This is important.
Capital B, lowercase O-R-B, capital W.
Fine.
Got it.
If it's going to be Borb W, all both B's are lowercase. Thank you very much. You're at least going to capitalize it correctly.
Wait, both B's are lowercase?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm confused. Is it all lowercase? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Ready. I'm good to go in 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so we're going to start off in prologue. If I die in prologue, I'm going to be really sad. Basically, this game only has 3 buttons to it. There's climb, which we need to use here. There's jump, and then there's dash, which we'll get to in a bit. So prologue is just introduction. I don't really have a dash yet, but it's really basic. So I'm bunny hopping here. Every time I jump, I save 2 frames. Really important. And we're just going to keep moving on. Normally there's a cutscene there that says I can dash, but in the newest update of the game, I can skip the cutscene, so it's nice. It saves about 15 seconds. So moving right into the first chapter, which is Forsaken City. Now that we have our dash, we can actually use it. And we're going to use it. So, if you've seen runs of this game, you've probably seen them a lot faster. Those strats are really hard, and I'm just doing what I can. But, still getting through the screens fast enough. The main collectible in this game are strawberries. If they have wings on them, you can't dash in that room or else they'll fly away. Sometimes you're supposed to dash and then collect them afterwards, but it's alright. We don't really need to worry about strawberries, they're just collectibles. These crystals here replenish your dash in the air. So they're going to be really helpful when they're required. Pretty much every interactable thing gives you another jump or another dash, such as the springs here. That's called a wave dash. Basically, I'm jumping, dashing into the ground, staying on the ground enough frames to regain my dash back, keeping the momentum, and then dashing again. Every screen transition also gives you a new dash, so it's really helpful. Another thing I'm doing is called hyper dashing. Come on. Hyper dashing is basically just getting the momentum from the dash jumps. These are called neutral jumps. They let you jump without using stamina, so we get to the top faster, and that's chapter 1. Only 1 death there, that was pretty alright. I think. Yeah, 2 deaths, that happens. So now moving on into Old Site, basically same thing. Every chapter gives you a new mechanic, and the mechanic is generally locked only to that chapter. So in this case, it's these dream blocks, where we need to go activate them first. I'm going to do an extended hyper, which is like a wave dash, but you're doing a hyper input instead. This is like the hardest jump in the game. There we go. Another extended hyper to do some cutscene shenanigans. I don't actually know why that works. So these dream blocks, again, they give you a dash out of them, but you need to dash into them to start them, and they just send you through the direction that you're going. If you hit a wall, you end up dying, and you can jump out of them afterwards to give you a little extra speed. There's a lot of techniques in this game that aren't initially described to you. So like the jumping out of dream blocks is shown to you in the B-side for this, which is basically just a harder version of the chapter. It's not required for completing the game, but it's there for completionist's sake. And I believe in Core B, they show you how to do the hyper dash. Just gonna retry there. Basically, where I am now is the battle line chase, where doing great. Where if I was to hit these clones of me, I would end up dying. There we go. But they're not a big deal. They're 3 seconds behind where I am in movement, so as long as I don't backtrack too much, I'll be okay. Gonna try and do a skip here. Nice. Gonna just move through this whole part here. Yeah, that happens. This area is pretty difficult because you're basically crossing paths with another, with some clones of you, so all good. Moving on. And the rest of the section is just movement. So utilizing hypers and all that fun stuff. So there's a little break in between the parts of the chapter here. There's really nothing to this part, just movement. Get through this. These springs like to mess up the speed. And that's chapter 2. Hey, we got an achievement. This is not the first time I played this, I swear. So moving into the second hardest chapter in the game, chapter 3, they ramp up the difficulty curve like significantly, which is great. We're going to be introduced to these fuzzies here. They are really annoying. Really annoying. We can utilize the gain your dash back in between transitions to skip that little puzzle. There's the first berry we get on the route. We're going to get 2 in total. With berries, you need to be on the ground for a certain amount of frames before it's considered collected. So if I died in that room there, I would have lost the berry, and it would have been considered not collected. But again, strawberries really don't matter, so they're just there for you to feel good about yourself. I think the in-game tip there says they're good for showing off to friends, but that's about it. Alright. Another thing introduced in this section is keys. We just need to go get the keys for the sections. Okay. There we go. When the ground's like hairy like that, that means if you walk over it, you'll spawn more fuzzies. So, more ways to not backtrack. There we go. Because this chapter is so cycle-based, you also need to be aware of the death cycles. So if you're to die in a room, you have a bit of respawn time, and the cycles are different. So you kind of need to be aware of the strategies to do if you haven't died yet, and if you have. You can just wait for the regular cycle, but that's a bit slower. But sometimes you have to. Take this slow. All right, so now we're in the huge mess area. Basically, we just met Mr. Oshiro, who owns this hotel that we're in, and he's having some hard times just cleaning up the place, so we're going to do it for him. That was a spike jump there. Basically, if you're moving in the same direction as spikes, you can't die to them, because there's some sections where you go up through some spikes. So like if you were to go back down, you would just die. So that's put in place so you don't just die by going up through them. And we can use that to go to the side and then wall jump and skip a little section there. That's going to be used again later. The rest of this is kind of just straightforward platforming, avoiding the fuzzies. Can skip a little part of this here. So these 3 areas you can do in any way you want. Like I didn't have to do this one last, but I did them in the way to, come on. Angles are working kind of weird today. Alright, I'll just do this the normal way. Can go a little slower. A little slower. Look, if you go slow enough, eventually you'll get it. There we go. Yeah, for some reason I can't get a lot of the these wave dashes, but that's alright. I'm using a different controller than I'm used to, but not gonna complain that much. So for this one, before I died, I could have just walked right through the moving fuzzy on the left, but afterwards, the death cycle got it and I couldn't. Alright, finally, that's the end of this section. Just about. Alright, so now we're moving into the second half of the level, starting with this elevator shaft here. I kind of mentioned stamina earlier, but didn't really explain it. So if you climb too much, you start to like flash red. That means you ran out of stamina and you really can't climb up anymore, so you start falling. There's a couple areas in the game where you need to manage your stamina, but it's really not that big of a deal. Alright, so basically Oshiro just threw up a bunch of fuzzies. And now we gotta go meet him. Hitting retry after getting that key just sends me back to the beginning with the key intact. So that saves a good bit of backtracking. That'll be done later as well. Okay. There we go. Holding up left is pretty difficult. Alright, so now we're going to go to the roof and meet up with Oshiro again, except now he's angry. And here is the quote-unquote boss fight of Chapter 3, which is just the Oshiro chase. Can I get my dash back, please? There we go. And I'm still just gonna get hit. Sometimes you just gotta accept that you can't do the fast strat. It happens. Doing this area is always super scary, because there's just so many places that you can just die. This room's especially difficult because Oshiro just hits you at like random, just the worst times. Also, it doesn't really matter here, but when you bounce off of Oshiro, you get a dash back. Again, that's kind of used more in the B-C sides. C sides are just harder B sides. So this is the last screen, and it's really long. And that's chapter 3. That's a hard chapter. Like I said, it's the second hardest, so more to come. Chapter 4 is a bit of a break from the super hecticness of chapter 3. This introduces clouds, which both give you a dash back and give you a lot of vertical momentum. It also introduces the first orb in the game, the green ones, which send you for a set amount of distance. You can also cancel them by just dashing. Also introduces wind, which is a very not fun mechanic. So we'll be dealing with that more later. There's also these red clouds, which disappear after you touch them once for a little bit. And these crumble blocks. They're actually going to be like used more. They were in some other chapters, but they weren't that relevant. Why? I made the great decision on playing this this 8-directional game on an analog stick, like I do normally, but it makes some angles kind of difficult sometimes, but no big deal. I never actually mentioned these doors, the locks, but you can kind of figure out that when you get all the keys, you unlock the door. This one's kind of like a stamina puzzle, if you will. Alright, and now we have these blocks, which we can influence direction of. Just going to do a spike jump to get past that, though. Another mechanic that's intended is, if I can get it, these dash boosts off the walls. If you dash into a wall and then wall jump, you get wall bounce, and it gives you a lot of height, so you can skip some stuff with it. Do that jump. But yeah, movement-wise in this game, there's just so much you can do, even with just 3 buttons. You can dash jump, you can hyper jump, you can wave dash. So much stuff. And it's cool, because there's like 35 different ways to do every room, pretty much. We're good. Never mind. What I'm trying to do is get a wave dash off of this top block here. I'm not going to bother. Wave dashes and extended hyper dashes, which what I've been doing before, they're functionally the same. However, you can't do an extended hyper dash on like a couple blocks wide worth of ground. So you can with wave dashes. That's why I did that instead of just trying to do an extended hyper. I don't know the exact frame values for what it works, but it's like less than 10 or something. Alright, so this is kind of an auto-scroller, which is going to move us into the last area of the chapter 4. We just need to wait for this block to move all the way over so we can make this jump. Have some more wind, that's going to be really annoying. Basically just waiting out a cycle so I can use the wind to my advantage. Alright, now we're in the end. Kind of. So now we have even more wind than before. And some other mechanics that are equally as annoying. So with wind, it's not affected by dashes. So that's why I can dash at a normal speed. But if I was just to walk everywhere, it would be really, really slow if I can move at all. We also get introduced to snowballs, which if they hit you, you die. But you can jump off of them to regain your dash. So hopefully I won't be getting hit by any of them. They stop spawning once you're a certain distance to the right. Now what do we do here? Nothing. Sometimes you can save that. But that angle is just too steep. Even with the dashes not really taking into consideration the wind, it's still really hard to navigate sometimes. Alright. That was the last room with snowballs. Coming up on the last rooms in the chapter. There's only one more after this one. And now we get Tailwind, which is nice because it's a lot faster. Second strawberry, and probably the last one I'll get. That's chapter 4. Alright, so chapter 5 is the hardest chapter. So once this is out of the way, it's still hard, but less hard. So chapter 5 is mostly structured like a maze, but because I know where I'm going, I'm not going to get lost, hopefully. It also introduces these blocks that move when you touch them, or when you dash, rather. And red orbs. What these do is they go indefinitely until you dash out of them or hit a wall. I'm also going to do a kind of hard trick. I moved to the left here just in case I needed to respawn. Let's go. There we go. So that avoids having to get a bubble over on the left side, and saves a good bit of time. But it's a hard trick because, for the way I do it at least, you wait for the block to move up a little bit and then do a hyper dash and hope you don't miss. So here we have some maze parts, but basically just go up and then go right and you're good. Can skip a little bit there by just dashing right first. So normally for this section I need a key, but there's actually a developer intended shortcut. Alright, we're gonna skip getting the key. Another thing I didn't mention is if you press the dash button before the orb takes off, you can just send it like automatically. So it lets you go a little faster. Alright, so now we're going to lose control of Madeline for a second and take control of this monster thing. They're called Seekers, and they're going to be really annoying in just a moment. But in the meantime, their movement is very slippery, but take out Madeline, then wake up. Everything's okay for now. Skip lots of cutscenes. 4 in total. Alright, and now we're gonna move on. So this kind of just presents us with more difficult platforming challenges. Okay. These things are really annoying. However, their movements are not random. It basically is just determined on where you are at the time. So, for the most part, they can kind of be like manipulated. Like this one, we're going to use to activate that key. There's going to be one more of those later. Or 2 if I can get that, so that's good. They also give you your dash back when you jump on them. See, enemies are useful. Until they kill you, but... Okay. Sometimes when you like jump off of a corner, you don't regain your dash, which has proven really annoying in the past, but it's been alright here so far. Alright, so now I'm going to be doing what's called search skip. Basically this section is called search. You're supposed to find 2 keys, but that takes a long time. So I'm going to do that, and we're done. So that saves about 2 minutes. It's a really easy trick in comparison to some of the other movement things. And it's definitely worth it. Kind of just going to move up here. And move on. We need to bait this Seeker to breaking the block so we can unlock the key. Alright, now we're moving on to the Theo section. So, Theo is someone really haven't seen yet. He's just Madeline's friend. Takes a lot of selfies, puts them on Instagram. You know, college kid. And he's encased in a crystal. And we need to save him. So, this is basically an escort mission, except you control the speed. And the Seekers like to make this part really, really annoying, so we'll see how it goes. This is probably the hardest part of the section. But Theo's momentum is odd in that you can transfer a lot of momentum in between, like you carrying Theo. So it leads to a lot of just fast stuff. Assuming I can catch Theo. There we go. You can kill the Seeker there. Didn't that time, but they have a unique death sound. It's interesting. And that's the only way to actually kill him. This is the last room, and it's the hardest. It's also the longest. And that's that. Now we're just going to move through the end here. These like radial waves knock us back, so that's chapter 5. That easily is the hardest chapter, so I'm happy that went well. Moving on to a much more relaxing chapter 6. It's called Reflection, and we get introduced to the Feather. The Feather gives you full 360-degree movement, and it lets you fly for a short period of time. So something interesting about the Feather is that if you move more than 17 degrees in a certain direction, you start to lose speed. So it's kind of just about staying mostly as straight as possible. So now we're in the bulk of the section. That was kind of just an introduction to the Feather there. So we have these Kevin blocks here. They're called Kevin blocks because the sound designer's name is Kevin, and he made the voice for them.
Shoutouts to Kevin Regame. He's a really nice guy. He does some audio for some other speedrunning events, actually, and he's a very nice guy. And is also incredibly talented.
Yeah. So yeah, these blocks are really nice for giving momentum, and we'll see that in a bit. So normally we're supposed to grab a feather and move to the top here, but with neutral jumps, we can just climb walls to our will. And it's really easy. I'm gonna try something here. It's probably not gonna work, but I can still try it. Aw. What I wanted to do is get a bunch of momentum from a hyper dash there and bring it into this feather here, but that's alright. I usually die anyways, so. But yeah, a lot of this section is just momentum based, and it's pretty cool. These are bumpers. They're just pinball bumpers. They're useful. except in rooms where we don't actually need them. Sorry, bumpers. You're cool and all, but you're useless. There's some more momentum off of Kevin blocks. Okay, now we actually need bumpers. Actually, I'm gonna do this again. So I'm going to do a trick here. There we go. So that's called a demo dash, I believe. I think that's what it is, at least. So basically, what I did there was I crouched and then I dashed 4 frames after, or within 4 frames after I released crouch. What that does is keeps my dash or my crouch hitbox, which is 4 pixels high, and keeps that through the dash, which lets me go through smaller like gaps that I normally can't. So that's what that was. I just wanted to show that off. There are other places where you can do them, but they're a lot more difficult, and that's by far the easiest one because there's no real setup. You can kind of just do it. All right, moving into the last part of the first half here. There's some shortcuts here with really easy setups. You just hit the walls. There's another shortcut on the left there, but there's no setup, and I don't like it, so I'm not going to do it. Alright, now we have the only instance of swimming in the game, thankfully, because it's kind of annoying. Water levels are bad. Alright, sorry. Last part of this, we're just going to jump over some spikes, and once we're ready, got to really charge here. Alright. Basically, I had to wait until the area was loaded. And now we're going to start the battle end fight. This fight is hard, and it kind of is a fight, because I'm kind of making contact with the enemy now.
I believe you mean the Bad Orb W fight?
You're right. Excuse me. Look, I didn't get a chance to name the enemy, so I think the name stands. Basically, this fight just uses a lot of hypers and things to not get hit, basically. And it looks cool if it's done right. And if I don't die 100 times. I don't know exactly how the projectiles work, because sometimes I can hit, sometimes I can get a hit, but like while the projectile's coming out, and I don't actually die to it, so it's nice. But now we got lasers. And this basically just uses every kind of mechanic that we were taught in this section so far. So yeah, like there, like I was definitely hit, but I wasn't, so it's cool. I'm not complaining. Also, once you get close enough, you kind of just home in. So now we got bumpers. Alright. First death there. It's fine. You have way more than enough time while she's charging her laser, so. Alright, so that's the halfway point of the fight. If you want to extrapolate the lore from those 3 messages, go ahead. I can't really help you. I'll pretend like I know the lore of this game, but I kind of don't. But still a good game. Gonna have to wait a cycle here. just because I need that boost. Alright. This is the second to last screen in this section. If I was to die right here, I'd be sent all the way back to the beginning, so don't do that. And the last screen is a lot of feather movement while avoiding these lasers. It's great. And that's the end of the fight. So there's a little bit more to this section. If I can make it to the end of this first section. Alright. So now we have a level up, and now we have 2 dashes. And obviously this is going to be really helpful. If 1 dash was good enough. They did in fact make a dash too. Alright. So after I skip this cutscene, that's the end of chapter 6, and we move on to the summit. If I can press the A button. Alright. On to Summit, which kind of is the hardest chapter, but at the same time, it's like a collection of like all the chapters, so is it really one chapter? I don't know. So basically what this is a collection of all of the things that you've done so far. Like I said a while ago, each chapter introduces a mechanic that isn't used again until Summit. So this is kind of chapter 6. Kind of. It's a little weird. Other than that, they just go in order. Able to skip some of this stuff with some wave dashes. Could have made that. Not gonna bother. Skip there is kind of difficult. And all the areas also match the look of the original chapter it's based off of. So it's a cool throwback to what we just did 20 minutes ago, if you forgot already. Alright, so this is the chapter 1 section. We get these traffic light blocks again. Alright. A couple more rooms here. Oh yeah, this is the third orb in the game, the purple orb. And it also gives us a dash, as usual, and it's used at the end of every summit part to transport us to the next one. So here's chapter 2. Again with the dream blocks, exact same as before. That was close. So there's 2 ways to do this part. I could have gone to the left or the right. The left is a lot faster. Alright, that's that part of Summit done. Moving on to Chapter 3, which is the hardest part of Summit. Because again, these fuzzies are just not fun. Everything's cycle-based, as they were before. Why would anything be any different? I just take a shortcut here because it's a lot easier. Alright, this room is... That was one of the hardest rooms in Summit. This one's also pretty difficult. It's going to take it slow. Alright, cool. Going to the outside portion. Alright, that's 1,500. Moving into 2,000. This is Chapter 4. Okay. Look, the worst deaths are the ones that you just jump into. Like, what else am I gonna do? I'm just extending the run. Alright, more snowballs. They're a lot easier to deal with now, generally. I say that, I'm probably gonna die. Okay, good. I died afterwards, it's fine. Snowball's revenge. So this is another auto-scroller. Alright, finally, at the end. I think this last room is like the easiest last room out of all of them, because there isn't too much to it. The wind really doesn't matter, because you're just dashing anyways. But that's done. 2,500 is also really difficult. Alright, moving into this screen, I'm going to do a skip here, if I can get the bubble. Basically just jump up that whole spike area, that skip's getting a bubble and going all the way up. It's really nice. Just some bubble platforming, really not that hard. Not doing door skip, because I don't know how to do it. You can skip both of those buttons to unlock the doors, but it's fairly difficult. Oh no. We good? Oh. It's always hard dying at the end of long levels, because then everyone has to watch it again, and it's really boring the second time. There we go. Alright. 2,500 done. One more section, and then we are done. So this is 3,000. There's 30 flags. And if you want to count along, have fun. I am going to get every single flag, so we'll learn how to count back from 30 incrementally. Oh, you gotta wait. See? You're getting ahead of yourselves. I'm just testing you. There we go. 22 sucks. Alright, it wasn't that bad, actually. Usually sucks. Oh. $17 again. I just like the numbers so much. Ooh, I'm really testing you on fast number counting now. That's kind of like a stamina challenge there. $13 is one of like the hardest flags for like no reason. It's just so long. There we go. $11. Oh. Oh. I don't know what comes between 4 and 6 now. That's reasonable. 4 for a third time. There we go. Three and 2 are also really difficult. Time is when I skip the cutscene after hitting the top. What comes after 1? The answer is red flag. And time. That's it. Also, I seem to be getting the achievements 1 chapter after I did them, because I think I just got Chapter 6's achievement for finishing Chapter 7, but thanks, team. So, that's Celeste. Let me just go see if I went over estimate. No, I didn't. Nice. 68 deaths, 45. That's fine. 2 strawberries. Basically, when you hit the epilogue, you bake a pie with all the strawberries you got. And we didn't have many, so yeah, It's pie flavored, yeah. So, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to see a really good run, watch the TAS of this. It's incredible. It's like half the length of this. But yeah, that's it for me. So, thanks again, and bye.
All right, thank you, Scott, for that Celeste run. Stay tuned as we continue with our nice little PC games block. We have V input output with soft body.